can you introduce yourself as well?
Yes, Sue Daniels. I run my own company, Insight Management International, but I'm also a trustee for several organisations. One of the things, I'm glad you mentioned the right tool for the job, because that's exactly what it's all about. It's about using the right sort of mechanism to get where you want to be. The issue that I've come up with is that it's about the trustee bodies themselves, particularly, and it doesn't actually have to be just small and medium-sized charities, some of the larger charities. Trustee bodies themselves don't necessarily understand the range of mechanisms that may be put forward to them. And this is where the initial problems start, I think, for charities pursuing particular directions, but then the charity boards get very nervous and very risk-averse very quickly. I'm glad you mentioned HCT, because they started life as just a plain old ordinary charity, but the process that they went through of moving themselves to where they are now took many, many years, and it was a considered process that involved changing trustees and getting the right trustees on board at the right time to help guide them through and help them make that change. And they're a very different entity to what they started out with, and they make a fabulous case study for anybody who wants to look at how they can move forward and use some of these broader mechanisms beyond just the traditional fundraising tools that we've started out with.
Thanks, Sue. Anybody want to come in on that or ask another question? Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm Eliane from the Gaia Foundation. I just had this whole social investment thing is quite a new concept to me, and I just wondered, is there some kind of central source, maybe online? I know you said that NCBO do training, but maybe if that's, I don't know when their plans happen, that I can go to where I can try and find out about this in a sort of quite simple language.
Sure. Okay, thanks, Ellie. Sorry, go ahead.
And Leslie King Lewis, because of leadership. Paul, I was interested, not surprising to the organisation, around your comment at the end about leadership or lack of leadership. So I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that. But also perhaps just to put in context, I haven't heard of your organisation. Is chugging a big problem? What percentage actually are you looking for when you were talking about who's sort of flat the rules and created a problem? Just to put it in context. And Jim, again, be interested to know, you mentioned a trillion potential size mark of $1 trillion. Charities have been sold, this is going to be the answer to all our problems. What has been the actual take-up? Because, and also, have there been examples of crowdfunding? That to me, it's again about the complexity and understanding what the product is, and that's where we brought up in this discussion, it is a big issue, because people don't understand the actual product, because investment in capital, loans and equity, is very different model to fundraising. It's completely different. And I think that's a huge misconception. And something like crowdfunding is a simple concept. Has that happened within the voluntary sector yet?
Sure. Can I invite Jill to start in responding to this set of three? So the first one was about trustee boards. That's how it began. I won't try and repeat the whole question.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. Trustee bodies aren't, they haven't come in to examine that sort of detail or be that in charge of that sort of very heavy duty, serious, and that's rather why you have people here actually, is you have, I would suggest, trustees need, if you're going to embark on a big adventure like that, you need an external advisor, because it's not fair on your trustees. They joined you for different reasons, really. And if you want to explore a route that they're not happy with, there are plenty of experts out there that you bring in, and you've almost certainly got a lawyer that you should bring in and advise them. I think that one of the most important things you ever do is keep your board and your trustees happy. They're your boss. Without them, your charity falls over. They're your governance. And if you want to explore a route that they're not ready with, you have to go through the routes to make them comfortable. That's just a simple answer, but
Thanks.
there are other experts out there.
Thanks. Nice plug for your business there, Jim.
Yeah,
Should we respond to that?
Okay. Come on. I've got some sponsorship deals next.
There's no brown envelopes under the table as far as I can see.
I think the risk-averse and trustee boards is just such an important point. Like most people in this room, I have several trusteeships and struggle with fellow trustees to differing degrees and so on. big worry, from my point of view, is the huge divergence between being risk averse and being calculated risk managers, which is where we need to get trustees. It never ceases to amaze me where apparently experienced and well qualified people from the business world come into the boardroom and they leave their knowledge of how to manage risk tied up to the bicycle railings outside. That is a tremendous challenge. One of the ways that I think, well, certainly I've come across it being dealt with on boards that I'm on, is through skills audits. One of the advantages of going round the table and understanding who's got what skills is you get a sense as a board of who you can rely upon for real knowledge in this particular field. A couple of the bodies I'm on are children's charities, and whilst I've got some knowledge of child development and all this sort of stuff, having a couple of social workers who've dealt with children from the care system on the board is just so welcome because they know what they're talking about. And I think identifying those skills around the table and overtly saying, actually, you're from the financial world, you understand these financial instruments, you help us, you lead us a bit, and let's rely a bit more heavily on you. Maybe that's part of it.
Paul, do you want to come in on that one?
Yeah, I think you have an issue again with evolution versus revolution here, because you have trustees that you have. And I could get a bit forensic about this, if you will, and say, well, one of the things you should do is a skills audit, even if you sit there and do it on the back of a fact packet sort of thing, so you figure out who's doing what. And I have to do a lot of this as chair of PFRA. And what I don't want to do is chuck the baby out with the bathwater by upsetting anyone. Equally, I know that there are some people who sit around the board. When I arrived, I discovered a lot of things, and that is that the executive team didn't run the PFRA, and now very quickly they did. So the executive team came in and the board of directors told them what to do. Well, now that's changed. The executive team come in and tell the board what they are going to do, and the board agree or disagree. That's the idea, and that's what we pay them for. But there are some members of the board who have got skills that I like, and I'm trying to get them to make those skills better and bring them to the fore. And those that need probably a bit of attention, trying to get them to direct them off by special training or whatever to develop their skills. So it's this evolutionary process. And one of the things, the big thing I had to do was get them to understand what it meant about being a director of the PFRA, because it's a limited company. It's not a charity, it's a non-profit making limited company. So I had to get BWB in for a day to tell them that when you walk through the architrave of that door, you leave Cancer Research or British Red Cross where it was outside, and now you're a board director. And some of them didn't understand the consequences. They didn't understand what it meant. Yeah, that's what it means. And so it's building over time, but it's time is the essence, I think, in the issue. Big issue.
Suja, do you want to come back on that one at all?
Well, I wasn't really asking a question, I was just making a point that if you're going to use new tools and different things, you need to make sure that you've got the right skills around the board, and the board needs to really understand it. I mean, one of the big things that I find working with boards over the last 25 years is that you actually have to, the away days are actually critical if you're going to make major strategic change. And the more discussions that you can have out of a traditional board meeting about particularly big issues and big changes and big things that are coming down the pipe is to have these lengthy away days so the board can actually get to know each other, but then they can also get to understand the real issues. And they can discuss them and they can feel very comfortable, and then they can bring people in, such as John or other people, to explain to them where they might go or what using such a tool might mean or what some changes are that are coming down the pike. So it is a big question, and it's ongoing. It's something that has to be done all the time. You just can't say, well, we did that last year and we don't need to do it this year. And I think boards are now starting, and in the UK it's been particularly slow, I have to say, but it's now changing.
Thanks, Sue. So Ellie's question, is there a central source of information on social investment? I'll tell you what I know. There's a really good toolkit on social investment, which was written by a colleague of mine that's I've just lost out of my team, which is on the website for the Children's Partnership. So if you put that into your search engine, you'll be able to find that. It's a really good detailed guide to social investment for charities. You can also look on the Big Society Capital website, good source of information. Does anyone on the panel or in the audience, in fact, want to add anything to that? No?
I think it's worthwhile saying also on in the area of sustainable funding on our website, so on NCDO's website, you'll find there's a detailed analysis of what all the terms mean. And in fact, I sit on a board, I said to Jim earlier on, there were 9 of them are from the commercial world, they brought me in because I know something about the charity world. And they found that hugely beneficial. I wanted to make a point for Major, I'm sorry I was going to hold this for, but because I hear a lot, and I actually agree, and it's a statement, not a question, but actually it's not that the charities aren't social investment ready, it's that the social investors aren't sector ready. And I think Paul's point is hugely valuable because it does take time. And Sue, I would take your point. 12 years ago, people didn't even know there were trustees in the UK, so we went to lots of boards and said that they actually do realise that. Things like Trustees Unlimited takes a little part. But NCDO spent a lot of time, along with many others, Akivo and others, over the years, trying to help people understand the issue is often a lot of the smaller charities, and most of them are micros at the end of the day, have boards. And I'm always interested, people sort of say, the charities are terribly inefficient. That's what I was saying. Most companies of that level don't have any charity governance. They have no governance whatsoever. And so I think we should be striving for a much better, also on our leadership, but I do think we also shouldn't beat ourselves up because we're a bloody sight better than the private sector at that level. So most little shops turning over 200,000 don't have a board of trustees or a governance board. So I think there's an interesting dynamic that we need to. I'm part of the problem because NCDO will say the charity we all have to behave like corporates. We have to behave very, very sensible people. I'm with Joe on that one about the way that we do understand funding. But I think lots of our colleagues are very generous. I think that's good.
Does anyone else in the audience want to come in on this? Go ahead,
Yeah,
can you introduce yourself?
I'm Lisa Jaffe, I'm one of the directors of YME, and we're a restorative justice charity. And our turnover has just gone over 100,000, which is so exciting. So for me, listening to this, it's very interesting because I think one of the crime things the sector's really crying out for is support and investment in capacity. And we don't necessarily need a full-time finance. We can't unfinance fundraising, operations, campaigns, you name it. I also file stuff and make sure we have secure filing systems. I love that aspect of it, but we need a good way of getting access to advice and information. I would love someone to come look at my accounts. How do I manage multiple fundraising streams coming in? Where am I making unwise fundraising applications? Should we be making this application for a new project, or should we be trying to build the foundations for the next 3 to 5 years for core investment? Where's that going to come from? How do I, as a director, work with bigger organisations in order to maximise our impact? It's an absolute disaster in contracting in the culture at the moment. It completely wipes out smaller organisations in terms of the amount of time I spend, in terms of percentage of amount of time I spend on admin and bureaucracy in comparison to the amount that we actually deliver the proportion is not right. I don't want to add to that. I want to keep it at a minimum. So we do things like we share off, we have shared office spaces, which massively reduces admin. So I think for me, there's this crying shame. I'm Women's Resource Centre, I used to be a trustee. They have some very good, and they still do, have very good, easy to access courses for people to go to. But for me, it's this, is there a peripatetic or sort of expertise or a way of feeding in that expertise into organisations like the one I work for that can make it more than some of its small parts? Yeah.
Sure. Jim?
Yeah. The small organisations one. I think the trustee body is a good place to start. A really focused recruitment I was just thinking as you were all talking about the classes that I teach on the CAS Masters course, and looking around that room, there's 120 people in that room who are amazing people, thoroughly committed to the sector, young up and comings and some not so young up and but still up and coming. They of course have a particular expertise that's been honed on that course, and if you're talking about building systems was one of the things that I think you mentioned in your list, we should be thinking about getting a trustee in who does that for a living or has experience doing it elsewhere, and they can then lend their experience as a trustee to being able to do that. But we shouldn't be afraid of getting a trustee to come on board for a period, for a 12-month period, and then move off onto something else because they've helped us for that period. So I think that's a really good way of doing it, but sourcing those trustees, not really a sales pitch, but Trustees Unlimited and this sort of resource to be able to find the people to go on, I think it's a really important way of doing it. And of course, they come on with their existing networks, which are the other people they work alongside, to bounce off the idea if they've got a sticky problem they've encountered at IME and they're not quite sure how to resolve it. So I think that's a really important starting point of it. I think we in professions have got to be prepared to be flexible in the way we advise and support charities, be able to give small, simple, proportionate answers to small, simple, apparently complex, but actually much simpler than they look, questions. The question Ellie raised about sources of information, I agree with what Ruth said. NCVO, a number of other organisations like that do give sort of central, independent sources of information. Big Society Capital, the reports from British Ventures and what have you, very good resources. However, do bear in mind that they have a particular view of the market. They are funders from an investment perspective. Great people, I wouldn't knock them at all, but they are looking in with the funder's view rather than, I think, the point Richard was making, which was out with a sector view of the funder. So you will get that spin. The other factor that is a concern, and you just need to bear in mind the timing of these documents. This is a very fast-moving and fast-developing market. I'm lecturing tomorrow on social impact measurement, a related topic at CAS School. I thought my date was the 6th of March, it's actually tomorrow. I've had to rewrite some of my slides because of the change between those two dates.
Cutting edge thinker. Thanks. So I don't want to forget Leslie's question, which was, again, I'm shortening and summarising. It was about leadership and it was about the wider context here. Do you want to come in on this one, Paul?
Interesting. Chugging is a problem. I won't allow anyone to use chugging in front of me in my organisation because it's a rudeness, it's an epithet that most of the fundraisers don't deserve. They don't, there's a few that do, and that's the point. As a proportion of the number of direct debits that were collected by our members, secured last year, which is 7,500, the number that turned into complaints is 0.0002%. The press get hold of it, and the press have done a number of jobs on various fundraising providers, organisations, as we've seen in the media done. It's out of all proportion, but they won't listen to that, and that's what I meant about the mayhem that media causes, because it's largely untrue. When it's bad, it's very, very, very bad. It is. It scares the pants off. It's awful stuff. But someone needs to do something about that. And one of the issues that we're talking about now in the training brief that's gone out to suppliers is that if you want fundraisers on the street to behave in a certain way, strangely enough, you have to show them. You have to show them what it looks like so they can copy it. David Beckham is the footballer he is because he watched George Best and Bobby Charlton for years and years and years when he was a boy, and he tried to play football like them. So it's about visualisation. Sort of mean, and it's that kind of issue that that comes to the fore, or should come to the fore, in solving, it is a problem in some quarters, but making the process better. And that's what hopefully we'll produce. Can I just come up to the issue? I didn't catch your name.
Lucy Jaffe.
Thank you, Lucy. The issue that you raise is a really interesting one. And again, I'm not pointing my finger back at you here, but it's about the other side of development. It's about the self and being self-aware. One of the problems I have with a lot of bankers is if you sit them down as individuals, or salesmen, you sit them down with individuals and say, okay, what have you got to achieve in the next week? And one chap produced a list of 30 things the other day on his A4, on his lawyer's pad, and his yellow lawyer, 30 objectives. And I said, can you make that 3 things you're going to do today? And he said, well, I could do. Yeah, well, what about, well, forget all the others for tomorrow, because there's no way you're going to do 30 things today. And in your context, when you're a small organisation, it probably is not a bad idea to sit down and decide what is the most important thing we have to do. If it's getting more skills, as Joe's talking about, from other trustees, or having a review, whatever it is, do those and then slowly but surely get them done. The fear is, and what you see so often, is that people don't do anything because there's too much to do. And that's half the problem. Because once you start, it's surprising how quickly you get things ticked off your wish list, if you like. It's a good technique that a lot of people use.
Did you want to come in on the wider context, Jill?
I'm going to be merciless and say I'm a member of the Windsor Leadership, and it's very, very good training. Well, it's true, and you do need good training, and you never ever stop training. But I think most of your other questions, Leslie, crowdfunding, 1 trillion, it's not my area.
There has been crowdfunding, sorry, CDO, crowdfunded. We happen to have a deal on the fundraising central funding central site where CDO, and also we had lots of discussions with countries that because again, there's an area there where that's happened. I think it's in its early days, and where it has been, it's been quite successful. It's a small organisation, which I think is very positive, where they've actually made that personal connection. Paul Jill talked about this week. They've got people who really are interested in what that little local organisation is doing for their friends.
And £50 makes a huge difference. So it's something that everybody can join with.
I think just a quick comment on the fundraising. I think the crowdfunding bit, there are 2 styles emerging. There's the venture philanthropy, which is more matching of person and money, so you're tending to get an engagement with the model as well as provision of capital. And then there are the ones where you just put your £50 in and see what happens, and it's a sort of collective type investment scheme, not in the technical term, he says to his lawyer colleagues, which works because actually people don't mind losing 50 quid, and it's quite interesting. So it stimulates a bit of interest.
And I did £500 for the Inconvenient Truth, and I still find that one of the most exciting £500 I've ever given or spent.
Sure.
So that was crowdfunding.
I can promise you that when investors invest in AIM-listed companies, small companies that have just gone into the AIM market, they're the kind of investments they talk about to their friends, their close friends in the pub. It's not how much money they've got in Marks and Spencer's, it's the hairy, scary investments that could go wrong. That's what they talk about, and that's what we're reading.
That's why I think crowdfunding is very interesting. It could overtake the social investment because of the cost to entry, the barriers to entry, and it doesn't recognise the whole thing which Jill was focusing on, that emotional, why do you actually support a charity?
It's not that it overtakes social investment, it is one part of the wider
yes. But you have to find a take-up. Because
I
you
think
decided what just the context again, what's available and how much has actually been taken up by organisations. I have no idea whether
it is very hard to tell because there is no consolidated central source, and a lot of it is relatively small. There's a lot of community organisations are doing crowdfunding type around in the local neighbourhood. Community pubs tend to do it quite a bit. One model I'll just flag for you because I think it's really quite interesting is what the Royal Society of Arts are doing on their crowdfunding platform, which does seem to be getting some decent take-up, and it's aligned with the organisation which is about promoting innovation in the social space. I think that's quite worth looking at.
Okay, thanks very much, Jim. We've got 5 minutes left, so I'm going to take one more question, if that's okay. I'll take it from the gentleman here.
Yeah, Malcolm from Pacey. The question, do you think there's a place for investment managers to invest in social impact or social investment? So I've sat on a board where they've tried to make a social investment. If the portfolio manager says, oh, I'll buy a body with 1%, they don't blink an eye. But they come in, or someone comes in to pitch for us, and they say, oh, we want £100,000 to give a return of 3%. And they suddenly look at, oh, well, does it meet our objectives as a charity? Is it going to return 5 or 6% of the whole portfolio does? Part of me thinks there's a place for investment managers to invest in like the social investment market, as you were mentioning earlier, rather than changing the mindset that you're getting at. Rather than taking it as a risky, here's £50,000 investment in a social bond, should we do it or not? Taking it, you've got a professional that are investing as part of the portfolio, and then the trustees don't really get some function.
Can I invite a very short comment from perhaps Jim and Paul on that one, if you'd like to?
Yes, there is. It exists already. There's a huge interest in investment, not all of them, and it depends what the fund is and where they come from. But the interest is there, in short. They are in that space already because it suits the trustees of the fund, because some of them do have very societally conscious objectives around their fund, so it does exist.
The wealth managers in a number of the banks, the managing money on behalf of their clients, are actively looking at this, both the UK clearing banks and the investment banks. They're struggling a bit with it because they need to be driven by customer demand for doing it and all their risk rules, but it is coming. One of the steps forward that we're doing, we're co-sponsoring an ESRC-funded PhD studentship course at Andrews University, is going to be based partly here, researching this arena to try and work out how we can help the city and the city wealth managers to open up to this space and embrace it a bit more. One of the challenges in crowdfunding as related to that is the regulatory regime and where it impinges on the regulatory thing. We need simplification on that.
Yeah, because we convinced trustees to invest, and they said, right, we're trying to raise this fund for 20 million. We invested, and then we only got to 8 and gave up. And so therefore,
I'd like to suggest that was a fundraising which falls short is on the whole a badly planned fund.
Yes, and it's common for someone who's building a fund to have lots of people say they will, then they don't.
Yeah.
We all say we will, we're standing there, oh, yeah, it's good on you. I'll give you so much, and then you get the invoice and you don't. And that's a problem for every fund.
You go for a 3 for 1
Yeah,
or so ratio.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to take just a few